big plans are beginning to hatch as we dive deeper into the MCU. New weapons emerge, new heroes emerge. This week on our Marvel rewatch, we will be going through the last 3 movies of Phase 2. We got the Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. Before we head into Phase 3, we're going to start right off with the Guardians of the Galaxy, possibly my favorite Marvel movie of all time. We'll start off with the good, as we always do, the good, bad, the ugly. The good soundtrack. S-tier soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy. Possibly the best soundtrack in all of the MCU. As well as the cast. We got an all-star cast. We've got, as everyone knows, Zoe Saldana. We got Chris Pratt. We got Batista. We got Vin Diesel as Groot, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, but also we had John C. Reilly in there, Glenn Close, Benicio del Toro, and so many more. All-star cast, all-star soundtrack, S-tier there. We got Star-Lord's dance scene, which is iconic to that movie, as he's dancing his way through that cave, looking to collect that next Infinity Stone, the Power Stone. I personally love all the retro stuff between just the Walkman. On his ship, you got the little trolls from back in the day, the 80s and 90s. All that good stuff, the tape player. We finally get the name of the big bad, which is Thanos. We get the reveal of really who he is, and his sidekick Ronan, who he has sent to collect the new Infinity Stone. John C. Reilly has got to have a one-liner like he always does. He calls him Star Prince instead of Star-Lord, which was quite funny. The mugshots were great, Star-Lord flipping them off, all of those cool little things throughout the mugshots as they are getting captured. Not really captured, arrested, I guess you could say, by the Nova Corps. Couple one-liners there from Star-Lord. Somebody's talking about all the women he's been with and all the different species. And he talks about the Ascavarian. There we go. That's the word. Words be hard today. The Ascavarian tentacles and needles for teeth. You think I'm into that? Quite funny. Groot grabbing the battery while they're sitting there trying to make a plan. Groot's just behind them, stretching his arm out, grabbing that battery. As Star-Lord is saying, the battery is the absolute last thing we need to grab, and the mission goes loud, as some would say. It was actually quite comedic, in my opinion. Loved it. Rocket sending Star-Lord to go collect a prosthetic leg that he didn't actually need. Pretty good. I love Rocket's love for body parts. Collecting the leg, later on he wants to collect the eye. As we go through the other movies, he tries to get Winter Soldier's arm. All of that stuff is a great running joke throughout the MCU. Love it. We got our first cameo of Cosmo, the dog. He escapes. We'll get into him. He will reappear later on in the MCU. Spoiler alert if you didn't know that. 12% of his plan. I love that. That's Chris Pratt and all of his characters, in my opinion, in a nutshell. They ask him if he's got a plan. He's like, kind of got a plan. What's kind of? I got 12% of a plan. Love it. As well as once the Nova Corps comes to help him, he just says, they got my dick message. Now, you'd have to watch the whole movie to really get it. But he basically tells the Nova Corps, I'm an asshole, but I'm not a complete dick. So he basically sends that message to the Nova Corps. They come and help. The Yondu arrow scene, when he sends the arrow through, I want to say it's like 20 or 30 different guys, as it just goes and takes one of them out one by one. Another part of the all-star cast there is Yondu, played by Merle from The Walking Dead. Don't know why I can't think of his name right now. And then Baby Groot. Everybody loves Baby Groot. Little tiny Baby Groot dancing in his little pot for at the end of the movie after he saves everybody. Rocket finds a twig, shoves it into a little pottery thing, shoves some soil in it, and then at the end of the movie we get Baby Groot. Everybody loves an adorable little dancing tree. Onto the bad. Ronan just seems to fail at everything throughout the beginning of this movie. So he's almost like Starscream from Transformers. That was the first thing that popped into my head. Just always screwing things up. Can't seem to get anything right. Somehow he's able to just grab the stone and put it into his hammer. They didn't really explain on that as to why he's able to, because it is an Infinity Stone. We see earlier on somebody tries to grab it and it just absolutely destroys them. So there was no real explanation why he's able to do it. So that would have been nice if they kind of explained that a little bit. And then the big gun that they shoot him with, no one was carrying that through the entire last part of that plan. So I'm not sure how it just happened to get into that room. Little weird. Nobody was carrying it. It just suddenly appeared. But that's it. Nothing too crazy. Just some small stuff, in my opinion, a little nitpicky, as I've been getting lately, because the movies are getting better and better as we move on through the MCU. And I expected that. The later movies were more of my favorite as we got out of Phase 2 into 3 and 4. Now we're on to the ugly. Star-Lord tells one of Ronan's little lackeys, hey, Ninja Turtle, stop poking me, because they kind of look like, not really Ninja Turtles, but from the angle I could see the joke. The broker, very ugly. And then the guy that basically summons Ronan to Thanos when he fails to collect the orb originally, looks like a mixture of Voldemort and Darth Sidious, and it's quite hilariously ugly. Maybe that's what they were going for. Not quite sure. So nothing really ugly going on in that movie from my perspective. Our end credit scene, we get the collector's room absolutely destroyed, which will eventually lead on to where we get going further in the MCU with a lot of the stuff in his room. There are lots of little Easter eggs that I didn't take the time to stop and pause and collect. But there's a lot of things that does lead to later on in the MCU. The Howard the Duck appearance was great. I love Howard the Duck, so that was a cool little nod. And he's just sitting there drinking. I think he's drinking a martini, if I remember correctly. And then on to our grade. Our overall grade on this is going to be a 9.0, guys. Our first 9.0 in the MCU. Like I said, starting this movie, it's probably my favorite non-Spider-Man movie and MCU movie overall. I would put it over a couple of the Spider-Man movies, which we are almost to. Spider-Man being my favorite, though, so I'm a little biased there. But a 9.0 for me for Guardians of the Galaxy. S-tier movie, not quite to the level of an Avengers movie. That's the only reason I don't have it at a 10.0, is if this was an Avengers movie, hands down it would be a 10.0. So 9.0 there. On to Avengers Age of Ultron, our second Avengers movie. This takes place in Sokovia. We'll start off with the good. Somebody asks, as the Avengers are trying to basically take down this Hydra hideout, they ask, hey, can we hold them? And they look at him with just this look like, they're the Avengers. What do you mean? So Hydra clearly knows what they're up against, and a lot of their agents clearly know they don't really stand much of a chance. Cap says something to, I believe it's either Thor or Hulk. I don't remember offhand, but somebody curses and he says language. So Tony, of course, has to make a whole running joke about it throughout the whole movie, which is hilarious. So they're always poking at him about the language comment. And then at the end, he actually says bitch, which I thought was great. It's like Captain America finally hit his breaking point to curse himself. All of the nightmare scenes were really cool, of Wanda basically giving Tony the nightmare of everybody dying. I think Thor watches Asgard collapse, something along those lines. But it's all basically everybody's worst fears. Because she is, as we get to find out, basically the Mind Stone has helped her get all of her powers. The Mind Stone is the new Infinity Stone we get in this movie here. We're really building up towards the Gauntlet. We're starting to see, later on we see all of the stones as Thor sees that in his nightmare scene. And he kind of explains the Infinity Stones, how there's 6 of them, so on and so forth. I love the Natasha and Bruce relationship and how close they got, and I love their chemistry throughout this entire movie. That also kind of falls into the bad, not necessarily the relationship, but we'll get into that in a few minutes here. But I absolutely loved their chemistry and their relationship throughout this movie. It was really awesome to see somebody kind of break through the Hulk and really get to the person inside there, which was awesome. The hammer lift challenge inside of at the after party, everybody's trying to lift the hammer. That's an iconic scene. We still see it to this day, where Cap tries to lift it up and it moves just a little bit but doesn't come off the table. No one else can even move the hammer. We got our first Wakanda reference. So referencing towards basically Black Panther, which we'll get into in the next couple movies. The Hulkbuster suit was really cool. Throughout the movie, we're already showing some signs of tension between the Avengers, which, knowing that Civil War is coming up, definitely helped build to that movie and really showcase kind of the morality behind these heroes and what they do. Tony and Hulk basically create Ultron. Now they use Thor's lightning to basically create Vision. So to use that Mind Stone to create Vision, who now is going to be joining the Avengers. We got Hawkeye talking to, I want to say, I don't remember who he's talking to, but either way, we're fighting an army of robots, and I got a bow and arrow. None of this at all makes sense. I want to say it was one of the new Avengers, because right at the end there, we get a tease where Cap is looking over at the new recruits, says Avengers, and then it just cuts to black, which was awesome. Kind of nice little tease on the Avengers Assemble that we would think would be there. Now onto the bad. So there was a decent amount of good there. But with that, going on to the bad, the Natasha-Bruce relationship just ended after that movie. We never got any sort of closure. We never got any sort of follow-up on it. Now, I know Thor and Hulk disappear for a few movies here, and I'm sure that's why. But nonetheless, there could have been some sort of explanation. We don't really get anything there. We get that same 360 camera move where it goes around everybody in a circle and they're just shooting stuff in a circle. Really just cliche. It was cool the first time. Now it's just getting boring now that we're on like the third or fourth movie with that same exact scene. We didn't get any real appearances by anybody but the core 6. So we got no Happy, we got no Pepper, no Pepper Potts, no Happy. None of that stuff. We didn't get Jane, obviously. And it just really wasn't the most exciting movie. Pacing was a bit inconsistent. It did definitely help build and add some more characters with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and all that. And now on to the ugly. Some of that initial attack on Hydra, the scene just looks way, way, way too fake. Doesn't even look like Thor is hitting anybody with stuff, and it was just very, 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 very weirdly fake. Seemed very AI, as we would think nowadays. So that could have looked a little bit better. And then Ultron, just those close-up talking scenes. His mouth just looks really weird to me. Didn't think that looked good at all. In the end credits scene, we get Thanos grabbing that Infinity Gauntlet, putting it on. So now we're really starting to see what this guy's got planned and in store for the Avengers. We haven't seen all of the stones, but you can see all the little spots for them, so we know those are going to have something to do with that Infinity Gauntlet. On to my final score for this one is a 7.0. Not bad, not great. Entertaining enough to where you can get through it and you don't absolutely want to rip your hair out. On to our third and final movie of this episode and the last movie of Phase 2. We're on to Ant-Man. Paul Rudd joins us as Scott, a.k.a. Ant-Man. He is a thief. He gets arrested for trying to do some silly robberies. And he's just trying, he gets out of jail, he's doing whatever he can, tries working at Baskin Robbins. That doesn't work out for him because they know he's a thief and all that stuff. So he's just trying to do what he can to see his daughter. She's obviously with the mother and her boyfriend, fiance, husband, whatever you want to call him. The visuals look really cool in the scenes where Scott shrinks. They did those really well, in my opinion. I thought the visuals for the small and normal size scenes, how you go back and forth, they really nailed the scale. So that was good in my opinion. He finally meets Hank Pym, and he says to Hank, "I'm done breaking into places and stealing shit. What do you need me to do?" Hank Pym says, "Break into a place and steal some shit." So that was that was pretty good. Now Scott's daughter is talking to her stepfather, who is a police officer. And at this point, she's like, "Hey, are you looking for my dad?" And he goes, "Yeah, we are." And she goes, "I hope you don't catch him." So clearly she doesn't like the stepdad much either. And then she could tell that there's some beef between the two. Hank Pym mentions the entire city falling out of the sky from Age of Ultron, the Sokovia incident, all of that stuff. We got Anthony, which was great. That would be Scott's main aunt, I guess you would say, that he generally rides around on a regular basis with. When he's in a small form, he was running around and you could see him run onto a iPhone, step on the button. So this was probably like an iPhone 8. Steps on the button and hits the music. That was really cool. And then we get it as we're going through the fight through Cassie's room with him and Yellow Jacket, and just the trains, the ants helping. The train hits small little guy and then falls over. That was cool. The giant Thomas the Tank Engine going through the house, going through is awesome as well. We got the big tank at the end. Was kind of dumb, but kind of funny. That's more in the bad. We'll get back into that more later, I guess. But just the way they scaled everything was really good. They mentioned a guy who swings and a guy who crawls up walls. I don't know if that was meant to be a reference to Spider-Man, but that's what I gathered from it. So I thought overall that was pretty good. That nice little references here and there. The bad, that poor little lamb that went in there and just went splat during the testing. From Cross, that was kind of just like, oh, poor little guy. Hope being a snitch was not on my bingo card. Forgot all about that. Cross ultimately just working with Hydra just seems like the cheap way out. He didn't seem like his own villain or anything like that. At one point, we think Anthony has been unalived, I guess you would say. That's the word we use over here on YouTube. We thought he was gone. He is not gone. And then again, that tank keychain was kind of funny. Kind of dumb that you just have this little tank that can suddenly, like, I get it. He's Hank Pym. That's what he does. I think they could have done that in a better way than just having it bust through the top floor of a house. Could have been done in a better way. And then on to the ugly. It's really just one big thing to me, and they should not have shown him going that small into the quantum realm. I really think that was just too easy or too early to bring that in. Plus, he got out of it way too easily. I think they should have saved that for the next movie, personally. When they do Ant-Man and Wasp, that's where I think we really should have gotten our full explanation of it. I'm not against Hank Pym mentioning it, but the fact that Scott was able to go there and get out in the first movie, or like the first little period of having this suit, definitely makes that seem a lot less threatening. They will make it a bit more threatening in the later movies, but I think they should have saved it, and it would have been a better build-up for the later movies, personally. On to my final score. We got a 7.5 out of it. A little bit better than Age of Ultron. Still not a great movie, but a good movie nonetheless. It was funny. Kept its pacing pretty darn well. So just a little recap here. We got Guardians of the Galaxy at a 9.0. Avengers Age of Ultron at a 7. And Ant-Man at a 7.5 as we round out Phase 2 of the MCU. Next week, we'll be coming back with Phase 3 as we hit our new wave of heroes that will be showing up. Our big bad threat Thanos increasingly gets stronger, and we will see where the MCU leads. There are still some movies I have not seen, so this is going to be exciting. Going forward, there's a few that I have yet to see coming up, so I'm excited to watch those and talk about those with you guys. Let me know your comments and your opinions down in the bottom there. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, most of our viewers are not subscribers, so Jeff, if you could throw that little number up there. I'm sure it's mostly non-subscribers. If you're watching, you're liking those videos, hit that subscribe button. We're going to give you content every single week, at least once a week, if not more. If you like Marvel, you like DC, you like any of that nerdy stuff, this is the place you're going to want to be. As always, we've shenaned once, we will.